All right, so the Illustrator Homework. This is the sort of first real thing that we're doing that will kind of carry over into your other assignments. So you kind of want it to be good. But you'll see that it says to make a header, a business card, and an icon. Well, what are those? So the header is something that would be kind of at the top of your website. You can see it's kind of long, it's not very tall, and you'd want it to kind of declare like who you are, what you do. Business card would function much like a business card would. Again, name, what you do, and then pertinent personal information that you want to give out to people who you need to contact you. So phone number if relevant for what you do, website if you have one, email. I would always make sure that your email is something that's semi-professional and involving your name. So like squirrelygig42 is not gonna work in most cases. There's a couple of businesses where that would work, but you want to kind of keep it somewhat professional. If you don't have a website, that's okay. And you don't have to label these, like email, website, cell phone, because we all know what these are. Unless you have two different phone numbers, then you would list that. But I'm actually going to start with the icon because this, you can see I used it in all three places. This is kind of like some sort of symbol, some little thing that you want to create for yourself that is a nice little graphic to kind of describe you or what you do that you're going to reuse a lot. That's why we kind of say, hey, if you can make it 60 by 60, make something small that looks, actually I'm a little bit bigger. There we go, there's 100%. That's still legible, then it'll work bigger. The business card, I actually started with this, which is not what you're supposed to do. It's usually easier to start with the icon. But I kind of designed this way because my name is really long and it doesn't necessarily fit along one line. I put this little line in here just because it felt like I needed to break it up a little bit. And when I got to this end, I decided, I could, kind of expand it out. And these are kind of meant to look like play buttons because I'm an animator. When I made it smaller, I had to make the lines a little bit thicker. I think they're 1.5, and then these are 1. And that's just a function of like making it legible and not get lost and kind of stronger. But yeah, and then I actually just kind of cycled through all the different typefaces. Honestly, I didn't really I didn't really have anything in mind, and I just found one that I liked and I used it consistently. And once I designed these two things and this symbol, this basically came together. I mean, it had to have my name, it had to have what I do, it has to have my icon, and then somehow fit all of these things that are really long because my name is really long, and I apparently decided to use my name for everything. Now, in order to get started on this, you're going to have to do something kind of weirdly specific. And this is the biggest reason I'm actually making this video, because the rest of this you can kind of get just by looking at other people's work. But when you go File, New, I think you can actually just stay with Print. You don't have to go to the other one. But instead of one artboard, you're going to say 3. That's how you get these 3 separate white blocks here. Under columns, make sure it says 1, because we're just gonna, reorder them anyways. And then for their size, make sure you change unit to pixels, because if you don't, at the start, you can't really change it later. And you're gonna say 1200 by 200. Now that's gonna make 3 different artboards that are identical. It's gonna make 3 artboards that look like this header. We're gonna change the other 2 once they're, in there. I'm going to put my name on the file because we put our names on all of the files. And then call it, Illustrator because it's my Illustrator homework. Alright, so pixels, that's the big one. 3 artboards is the other big one. Putting your name on it. We hit OK. And we get this. Not very useful. So what we're going to do is right underneath the Layers panel is an Artboard panel. And we can actually rename our artboard. So I can double click here and call it header because the top one is going to stay the header. Double click on the artboard 2 and call it business card. Double click on the third one and call it icon. Now, that's great. We've labeled them, but we got to change the sizes. In order to do that, you actually have to select it first, like it has to be selected. And then you click on these little crop marks. And that gives you the opportunity to change it. Now you can kind of just change it manually sometimes. Oh, not if this window's open. But we actually want to be very specific. So we're going to make the business card first. And this is the weird part. A business card is 3.5 inches by 2 inches. How many pixels is that? I don't know. I don't know how many pixels that is. I'm going to have Illustrator figure that out for me. So I'm going to type in 3.5 IN. IN is like motion graphics for inches. And I'm going to hit tab to go to the next thing. And you can see it figured it out for me. 252 pixels. Don't worry, it's going to change it to pixels. That's what it's supposed to do. I hit 2 IN for the other one. I hit tab to go to the next thing. Again, it changes it to the amount of pixels I need, which is a good thing. And I hit OK. And it has made me a business card. The third one is the icon. And again, click on it first. And then I click on the little hash marks. And this is just going to be 60 by 60. If you don't put anything in here, like PX or IN, it goes with pixels because that's what we're working with. Right? So there we go. They're not ordered very nicely though. The icon's all the way down there where you're going to forget about it. So we're going to use this. It looks like hash marks again, crop marks. We're going to click on that and it's going to let us move these around. Be careful that you don't resize them. Don't do that. We went through all the trouble of making them the right size. We want to make sure that we just get this move tool you see with the 4 arrows going in 4 directions. That's what we want. You can see they're labeled, so you know which is which. You can make sure the size matches the, actual thing you want. And then I go back to my regular tool, and I have 3 artboards, and now I can start my work. So for anyone who's thinking, oh my god, how am I going to make an icon? I don't know how to draw. It's okay. You can always bring in images and kind of, especially if they're Creative Commons and they allow, changes. If they say no derivs, you can't use them. But otherwise, if they're Creative Commons, you can use them. And you can kind of like draw over them, or at least use them as the basis of a shape. If you want to bring something in, you say File, Place. And we go looking for it. I don't remember where anything is. This is a case of do as I say, not as I do. Don't put lots of stuff in all over the place. There we go. Got a weird little turtle thing. I click and I place them. You can't do anything with this the way you can in Photoshop. The most you can do is shrink it. And that is it. Make sure you hold down Shift when you're shrinking or growing something so that you can constrain proportions. Right? So if I wanted to kind of get some dinosaur looking thing, maybe I use this as inspiration. I would choose more real pictures of real life items and draw over those than drawing over someone else's artwork, because that's no good. The other thing you can do is if we click here where it says symbols, it looks like a club from a deck of cards. There's some symbols in here, and there's a lot more if you click on the menu for symbols. Go to Open Symbols Library and Mad Science. Say one of you is a scientist. Oh my goodness, these are so tiny I can't even see them. One of them is a beaker. You just click and drag out and you get this. One is a symbol pi. There we go. So you can kind of start to give yourself ideas. Again, maybe draw over them. If you're really, really, really shaky on the idea of using the stuff in here, you can take one of these and alter it, but you've got to alter it a lot. You've got to make some changes so that it's your own. 2 reasons for that. 1, I would like you to make something that's your own. And 2, people know what Illustrator symbols look like. I mean, everyone has seen this flower about 1 billion times, right? So they're going to know, oh, you just stole something from Illustrator. And, it's not going to come off as good. But you'll see when I click on it, I can't really do anything. Like, I know there's stuff in there, but I can't actually make anything happen. You have to go to Object, Expand. And you just don't change anything. You say, okay. And now you have all the different pieces that are going on in there. I'm going to zoom way in because these are tiny and I need to be able to see what's going on. Right? So we've got this. It's got a gradient on it, so I can go to my gradient thing and I can change the gradient. Instead of lime green, I could kind of give it sort of a blue tint. Make that kind of a teal. There we go. So now I've got a completely different color to it. I'm kind of borrowing their idea for the gradient, but you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Same with all these crazy strokes. Yeah, there we go. So that's actually just two different, there's two different, let me think. Yeah, it's just a bunch of different shapes that are on top of each other. Control Z, undo. That's how I'm going back to things. And so I can click on this background one, and instead of orange and yellow, maybe, I don't know. Well, we're going with a cooler color palette, so this light blue color, and there we go. Right. By the way, if I want this same gradient on these two, all I have to do is select one of them and use this eyedropper and select the one I changed. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'll select this one, eyedropper, the original one, right? Now they all have the same gradient, just like they did before, but now they all have the same new gradient. So you don't have to redo everything, or you know, like do everything 13 times. And I think there's, yeah, this thing was in there. And actually it's the same as these, but I don't know if I can eyedropper it. Can I? Ooh, yes I can. Although I think I've made this like too cool. Oh, no, maybe not. I kind of like how blue and green it is. There we go. So I made some changes to it. Maybe not enough. Maybe I want to change how thin these are just to kind of, I don't know, make it a little bit more mine. Oh, you're not going to let me do that, are you? Ah, there we go. You know, I could also move these bubbles around so that they look more like what I want. Alright, so there we go. So you can start with one of these if you really must, but gotta make some changes. And just so you know, if we go into our layers here, oh whoops, hang on, I gotta get out. There we go. That flask, you can see how many things it's made up of. If I twirl all these down, that's quite a few pieces. So you can see how much goes into making something that looks nice and complex in this program. And it can be a little bit of work. But the nice thing is you can always copy and paste things. So once you get something that you like, go to Object Group so that you don't accidentally select only one piece. And you can say copy paste. And you can put one over here, and that's your icon. Right? Like, don't reinvent the wheel. Your icon, your business card, and your header do not all have to be very, very different from one another. That's too small. There we go. Right? So that's that over there, and then I hit Control V, and I go over here, and maybe that'll be in my little top left-hand corner there. Make it a little bit bigger, and then I can start putting my name of my business. If I want to get really fancy, I can always, this is another way you can add to stuff, right? I'm going to switch to that green color I know is in there somewhere. And, nope, nope, nope. If you hold down Shift while you're using the ellipse tool, you'll get a circle instead of an ellipse. And I'm going to make sure that that is all the way at the bottom, because actually first I need it to be outside the flask, and then I need to be at the bottom because I want it to be behind it. It also needs to be a wee bit bigger. And then of course I don't want it to actually be a full circle. I wanted it to be a stroke instead of the fill. So in order to move this over to here, I click and I drag, and now the stroke is the same color as the fill. And then I can tell the fill, nope, don't want you there. There we go. Look at that. Nice little circle. And I can, you know, put that over here and over here. I can get rid of my pie because I don't need it. All right. And, you know, once you come up with your text for on here, you can copy and paste that here and just make it bigger. Like you just go to the font. That's exactly what I did here, only backwards. I started with, I don't know why these are locked. Oh, because I locked them. I started here and I just copied this and I pasted it over here and I just shrunk it. I shrunk it using this. So that one's 130 point. That's 40 point. This one's 92 point. That one's 25 point. So it's all the same text. I didn't have to retype everything. I don't need a lot of new layers. I just, copy paste. I took this, copied it, pasted it there. Maybe made a couple alterations. So please don't go reinventing the wheel all over the place. We don't want to make extra work for you. But you want to consider the look of this relatively carefully because you're going to be using this for what goes into your midterm, which is the mock-up of your website, and then in your final, which is an actual website. And also, you're going to want to use some of these objects in the other things that we're doing because you need assets for those. After this, we get on to just using programs that take assets from somewhere else, meaning you make something here and place it in Flash or place it in After Effects. And life will be very easy for you if you do a good job on this because then you won't have to do any, extra work later. All right, so think real hard about what you want to do, and yeah, and you can always change it after you submit it for this assignment. If you're like, oh my god, I hate this forever and I don't want it to be my website, you can always make changes. There's no rule against that.